Can you please start the introduction again?
Okay. Okay, so we'll be discussing the appearance of Lord Nityananda, given that his appearance day is coming on Thursday, Nityananda Triyodashi. So as I was saying that Krishna comes as per his desire. In Gita he says for different reasons he comes to annihilate miscreants, to give association to his devotees, re-establish the principles of religion. And even though he's competent to do everything by himself, but Krishna is he's like a family person. It's like I'm sure you also have that experience. I know we had that in our growing up. That we would do almost everything as a family, even though we were not needed. So my mother would go shopping; she would take all of us, and we were mostly creating mischief there, but she would still take us. Or if my father would want to get some shop stuff for himself, he would take us. So it's just this whole experience of being together as a family. And Krishna is the ultimate family person. So he comes with his consort, he comes with his friends, he comes with his attendants. So it's a whole excursion for them, and they're having fun with each other. They're helping Krishna accomplish whatever he wants to accomplish. So when Krishna came at the end of Dwapar Yuga, he came with Lord Balaram. In the Treta Yuga, when Krishna came as Ram, he came with Lakshman. And in Kali Yuga, when Krishna came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came along with Nityananda Prabhu. So Nityananda Prabhu is not different from Lord Balaram. And many of you have deities of Nityananda Prabhu in your house. So you're obviously very aware of his position. So Nityananda Prabhu appeared in a village that is in current day West Bengal. The name of the village is Ekachakra. And his father's name was Hadai Oja, and his mother's name Padmavati. So his father was a Brahmin, and his mother Kshatriya. So there's an interesting pastime that his mother was actually the daughter of a king. There's a king by the name of Muktanarayan Rai, and as was typical of the kings those days, they would spend most of the time traveling, either making sure that everything is okay. If there is a rebellion, they would have to rush to quench it. If there was any enemies that were incursions, they would have to take care of it. So same thing with Muktanarayan. He was almost always traveling. And once after a long tour, he returned home, and his wife was very upset at him. And she started chastising him. That you're always out, you're always traveling. Do you even know what's going on? And the reason she was chastising him was that because when he was returning outside his palace, he saw a very beautiful young woman there, a young girl over there. And then he asked his wife, I saw this a very, very beautiful young girl outside the palace. Who is she? And then his wife, she got upset at him. And she said, this is what's happening. You don't even recognize your daughter now. That you're out all the time. Your daughter is now marriageable age, and she is from a child. She has become a young woman. You don't even recognize her, and she went on and on. And the king finally got exasperated, and he said that he got so angry. And so these are Kshatriyas, even 500 years ago, the Kshatriyas hot-blooded. So he said, I take this vow that the first man that I come across after sunrise tomorrow, I will marry your daughter to him. Now the queen got worried that what if the man is an old man or an ugly man? And she started praying. Now it so happened that close to the palace of the king, there lived this very, very learned Brahman called Hadayoja. Very renounced, very learned. And he got up early in the morning to worship his deities. And then he realized that he needed fresh flowers. So he was looking for flowers for his deities. And the best flowers are, of course, there in the king's garden. So he went into the king's garden. And at that time, there was no restrictions, especially for Brahmins. So he went to the garden and to pick flowers over there. And Mukhnarayan, he happened to come out at the time. And then he saw him. And he said, aha, I have found my son-in-law. And then Hadai Pandit said, I don't think so. I have no interest in getting married. So then the king said, no, I am your king. You have to follow my orders. So they went back and forth. He said, no, but I'm a Brahmin. I don't take orders from you. So the king tried different things. And then finally he said that I took this vow. You have to protect me. So Hadai Pandit agreed. And so they were married. He did say that after marriage, the princess will come and live with me in my hut as a wife of a poor Brahmin, not as a princess. The king agreed to that. So that's how Hadai Pandit and Padmavati married. And after a long time, they had a son who is none other than Nityananda Prabhu. And very similar to the appearance of Mahaprabhu, the appearance of Nityananda Prabhu was also very, very auspicious. The whole environment became harmonious. Everybody became peaceful. And when the astrologers came, they were surprised when they made the horoscope of Nityananda, they were surprised to see that there were so many auspicious situations that were lining up in the horoscope. So they gave him the name. So he's called Ram, and he also got the name Nityananda, because they said he will be always happy in the service of the Lord. So when Nityananda Prabhu was a child, then he was a natural leader of the children in the village. They all followed him. And one of the favorite things that he did was to enact these dramas depicting various pastimes. And at that time, that was a big source of entertainment. So people would congregate in the evening, and the children they would put up these dramas, and everybody would laugh and watch it. And the theme was almost always some pastime, something from the Purans, some pastime from Ramayana or Mahabharata. And his favorite pastimes were from Ramayana. And the people would be surprised by the level of details that Lord Nityananda would put in the plays. So Lord Nityananda would be the director, he would also be the actor, and uh, the plays were enacted really masterfully. And he would put so many details in the play that were not even available in the scriptures. People would be surprised that the level of the level of details that he would put in there. In one of the plays, when he was enacting the pastime of the battle with Ravan, or more specifically, the son of Ravan, Indrajit. So the way the pastime works out is that Lakshman, he fights with Indrajit. And then Indrajit, he throws a special arrow at Lakshman. And that arrow, basically, it hits Lakshman and it makes him unconscious. And then he's unconscious to the extent that nobody can revive him. And that's when Lord Ram dispatches Hanuman to get the herb that would cure him. So when this drama was being enacted, and then the person who was playing the role of Indrajit, he threw a fake arrow at Nityananda Prabhu, who was playing Lakshman, and then Nityananda Prabhu fell down unconscious, but he didn't get up. Initially, the children thought that okay, he's gotten into the character, so they said, okay, get up, but he just could not get up. And then his parents panicked, and then they started shaking him, and then also he could not get up. And then the Vaidya from the village came, and then he said his life symptoms are there, but they are weak, and he seems to be fully unconscious. What to do? Then some of the Brahmins in the village said that he's probably gotten too deep into the character. So best for us is to let the play go on. So then the other character who was supposed to play the role of Hanuman, he got the Sanjeevani, and then when he got the Sanjeevani and he waved it under the nose of Nityananda Prabhu, and he suddenly came back to consciousness. Everybody shouting, all victory to Lord Ram, all victory to Lord Lakshman. Another of his pastime as a child was that, so this Ekachakra is also famous for, it's an ancient place of pilgrimage. It's also famous for two other things. Ekachakra is about, I would say it's about 50 kilometers away from Mayapur. So it's also famous as the place where Cupid was burned by Lord Shiva. So this is where Lord Shiva was once doing austerities, and the Devas became very afraid of the austerities of Lord Shiva. So they tried different ways, and then finally they send Cupid, the deity of the demigod of love, and he shot an arrow at Lord Shiva. So this is an arrow that incites lust. And of course, Lord Shiva, being Lord Shiva, he got angry at him, and then he looked at him in anger, and he burned down to ashes. So this is the place that is famous for that. It's also famous as the place where, when the five Pandavas, they were in the Agyatwas. Not really the Agyat, well, it was the first Agyatwas. They were on Agyatwas twice. So right after the Lakshagre, when they were in the wax house and Duryodhana and company tried to burn it, so they escaped from there, and for a year they were traveling everywhere incognito. The other Agyatvash was after Yudhishthir lost the gambling match, and then as part of the condition for 12 years they were supposed to live in the forest, and 13th year they were in Agyatvash. This was the first time, and they happened to be living in this. They got shelter in this village of Ikachakra. So we know that there was a man-eating demon, a Rakshasa, over there. I forget his name. Does anybody remember the name of that? Was it Bakasur?
Bakasar Prabhuji.
Bakasur. So there was that man-eating Rakshasa, and the house in which the Pandavas were living. So the village guys, they had a system because he would come and attack the villagers and take people. So they had a system that every day one person would go there with food, etc., and this Rakshas would eat it. So it so happened that the house in which Kunti Devi and their 5 sons were living, the son over there was supposed to go. And they were obviously sad because that was the last day that they would see their son. And then Kunti Devi said, no, don't worry about it. I'll let Bhim go instead. And then they were living in the house of Brahmanas, and they said, no, how can we send you our guests? It's our duty to protect you. And Kunti Devi tried to convince them, and they said, absolutely no. We would be committing so much of sins if we put our own guest in any danger. So finally, Kunti Devi said that my son, he has actually got some secret mantras. And because of those mantras, the Rakshasas, they cannot harm him. And of course, Bhima's secret mantras was his strength. So then they said, okay, we are sure nothing is going to happen to him. Fine. So Bhima takes everything. He goes to the abode to the place where Bakasura is there. And then all the food that he had taken for Bakasura, he eats it himself. And Bakasura is very upset at him, so he kills Bakasura. But in the meantime, Arjun is very worried because time is going on. Because Bhim takes the cart, he eats all the food, then he goes off to sleep. And Bakasura is waiting and waiting, and Arjun is waiting and waiting. So Arjun gets very concerned. What's going to happen? What's happening to my brother? So he had mystical weapons. So he actually had casted a special kind of an arrow which is a snake weapon. And he cast it specifically to Bakasura. But by the time that arrow could reach him, Bhima had already killed him. So the snake that was the personification of their weapon just stayed over there. And being a snake that kills, it was a very vicious snake. And it just lived there for hundreds and hundreds of years, well, thousands of years. So so now we come to the time of Nityananda Prabhu, when people in the village were terrified of that area where that snake lived. They would say, don't go there, there's a really poisonous snake over there. And so when Nityananda Prabhu found out, he said, come on, let's go there. And the boy said, we'll be in so much of trouble. He said, no, we need to go there. So all with his friends, he went there. And then they showed him that that's the burrow, that's the hole in the ground where the snake lives. So Nityananda Prabhu is, of course, the original Sankarshan. He is the predominating deity, or the predominating deity is a partial expansion of him. So he took his ring, and then he put it on the hole in the ground, and the snake, seeing the ring, it went into the hole, never to be seen again, and the hole got filled up. So in this way, Nityananda Prabhu, he grew to be a young boy, and the whole village of Ekachakra, it was practically surviving just for Nityananda Prabhu. Not only his parents, but the whole village. As soon as morning came, all the boys would run to the house of Nityananda Prabhu. that, what's the plan today, what to do. All the elders, they considered him like their own son. The mothers were affectionate to him. He would go to anybody's house. Everybody's house was his house. He would go to anybody's house, and they would cook his favorite meals. And his parents were very, 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 very devoted to him. So one day, a traveling sannyasi came to the village, and the sannyasis at that time would travel from village to village. They would go to the temple, and they would do Krishna Katha. So that was what the sannyasis did. That and, they were constantly traveling, and they would go to the village, sit in the temple there, and then word would spread around in the village that there is a sannyasi who has come, and everybody would come and sit around him, and the sannyasi would do kirtan and do Krishna Katha. And then if he wanted, then somebody in the village would give him shelter for the night. So a sannyasi came, and same thing happened. He came, he did Krishna Katha, and Hanai Oja requested him that please come and stay the night at our house. The sannyasi accepted. So when the sannyasi came, he was very much taken in by Nityananda Prabhu. And Nityananda Prabhu, he served him very nicely there. So the next day, when the sannyasi was leaving, so as is customary for a grahastha, that if a renunciate comes to your house, you give some charity. So when the sannyasi was leaving, both Hadai Pandit and Padmavati, they folded hands and they said, please ask for anything that we can do to help you. Please give us an opportunity to serve you. So the sannyasi said that I'm traveling to different places, spreading the glories of the Lord, visiting the tirthas, but I'm getting old. So you're young, your son is young, and he's very well situated in devotion. So I would like him to be my companion. So I would ask for your son in charity. So both the parents were completely shocked that for any parent to give up their son is difficult, but especially one that they were so attached to. And they were attached because this is the personality of Godhead. That is Krishna's quality. The very name Krishna means one who attracts everybody. So it was very, very difficult. But they also knew that once they have given their word, they cannot go back on their word. Especially they given a word to a Brahman and a sannyasi. And Nityananda Prabhu himself, he gave assurance to his parents, don't worry about me, don't worry about yourself, everything will be okay. With a lot of reluctance, they gave away Nityananda Prabhu to the sannyasi. But they were so attached to him that even though they gave him up, the mother, she kept following him to see him a little bit more. And finally, the sannyasi, he stopped, and he gave Padmavati a deity of Krishna. And the name of the deity is Murlidhar. One of the names of Krishna is Murlidhar because he holds the flute. And he said you worship this deity. And every time you see the deity, you'll see your son. So they took back the deity and they started worshipping the deity. But still they were very, very desolate. So both the parents, from morning they would sit outside their house looking at the road where Nityananda Prabhu had gone. From morning to night, they would do that. And then Next day morning, they would do the same thing. So they practically stopped eating and drinking. And within 3 months, they gave up their body. And not only did they give up their body, but it is said that the entire village of Ekachakra became desolate. That so many people there, they in separation with Lord Nityananda, they stopped living. And from a more transcendental perspective, we can understand that these were also all associates of Lord Balram who had come and they had played their part in the pastime. And Radhanath Maharaj explains that Krishna also, he gives his devotees a taste of all the kinds of rasas. And one of the kind of rasa is the Vipralamba, is love and separation. So they also tasted that mellow of the intense separation from the Lord. It said that within a very short time, Ekachakra became a deserted town. It was once a flourishing, more like a village, but it became a desolate, deserted village. So not much is known about the the particular sannyasi, but at some point of time, the sannyasi also gave up his body. He was old. And Nityananda Prabhu then went to Vrindavan and he started living over there. So there he began to associate with another great devotee of the Lord by the name of Madhvendra Puri. The Madhvendra Puri in Chaitanya Charitamrita is described as one of the trunks of the tree of Gauranga, one of the trunks of Krishna Bhakti. So according to some historians, Nityananda Prabhu took initiation from Madhvendra Puri. So Madhvendra Puri, another disciple of Madhvendra Puri is Ishvara Puri, who is the spiritual master of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And another disciple of Madhvendra Puri is Advaita Acharya. So very exalted devotee of the Lord. Many wonderful pastimes of Madhvendra Puri. According to some, Nityananda Prabhu took initiation from Bhakti Tirtha. Oh, no, Lakshmipati Tirtha. So Lakshmipati Tirtha is the guru of Madhvendra Puri. So he took initiation from Lakshmipati Tirtha, but he accepted Madhvendra Puri as his Shiksha Guru. So small difference, but whether he accepted Diksha or Shiksha, but he took shelter one way or the other of Madhvendra Puri. And he started waiting for the appearance of Mahaprabhu. So Nityananda Prabhu appeared about a little over 20 years prior to the appearance of Mahaprabhu. So by that time, Mahaprabhu, he was doing his Leela of being a Jnani. He's a young boy and one of the foremost logicians, running his own toll or school and defeating other people. So he was in that mode, and Nityananda Prabhu was patiently waiting and waiting. And then finally we know that when Mahaprabhu met Ishvara Puri, his mood changed and he became more and more immersed in Krishna Bhakti. And he was still married. At that time, he was still married to Vishnu Priya. So when that happened, Then Nityananda Prabhu, he left Vrindavan and he made his way to Navadvip. But when he went to Navadvip, he did not go to the house of Mahaprabhu. Instead, he went to the house of another devotee by the name of Nandanacharya. And he actually hid within the house. Now, Mahaprabhu being omniscient, he knew that Nityananda Prabhu had come, and right from the morning of that day, Mahaprabhu was in ecstasy and glorifying Lord Balram. And so his associates, they were all surprised by this particular mood of Mahaprabhu towards Lord Balram. And he kept saying, Dauji, Dauji is coming, Dauji is coming, Haldar is coming, all the names of Lord Balram. And then finally, at one point of time, he asked all his associates that a powerful personality has now come into our village. You please go and get him. So they all spread out. They said, how would we recognize him? So you will recognize him by the fact that when you see him, you will be inspired to chant. And they spread all over looking for Nityananda Prabhu. But none of them could find. So they looked and looked and they came back and they said that could not find him. And Mahaprabhu said, don't worry, I'll take you. And the Mahaprabhu straight away went into the house of Nandanacharya. And there was Nityananda Prabhu sitting inside. So the acharyas say that that's the relationship. So Nityananda Prabhu is Lord Balram. Lord Balram is the Adi Guru. He's the original spiritual master. So difficult for us to find the spiritual master on our own. So initially, the people in the village, they were searching and searching, and they were looking by their own endeavor. And Nityananda Prabhu could not be seen. But then Mahaprabhu, he straight away went and said, okay, here's Nityananda Prabhu. I give you Nityananda Prabhu. So similarly, when we or devotees are looking sincerely, then it's Krishna who delivers the Guru or delivers them to the Guru. And then it's the Guru who delivers them to Krishna. So it's this sweet mutual relationship that Mahaprabhu, he delivered everybody to Nityananda Prabhu, and Nityananda Prabhu in turn delivered Mahaprabhu to them. So similarly, when we are getting serious about our spiritual life, then one of the first things that comes in our heart is the need to take shelter of a bona fide Guru. And especially in this day and age, it's difficult because there are so many bogus gurus. There are so many gurus who are asampradaya. Some of them may not be dishonest, but they're philosophically not well situated. And a lot of them, of course, are outright dishonest. They're just they're just borderline criminals, or maybe more than criminals. So it's difficult decision that if I have to put not only my life but my soul in the hand of somebody, then I need to be sure. And that's why people are reluctant to take shelter, because they have heard and they have seen so many people getting cheated. That Narani Mataji gives this example. I think this was either this was something that she saw herself or something that she was told. But in Vrindavan, there was the young man, and his mother one day started saying, I had a dream that my son is God. And for whatever reason, it caught on, and then he became very popular. He became a very popular god, and he would wear uh, peacock feather on his head, and he would dress in different ways and sing kirtans. And then one day he eloped with one of his disciples. And then the mother said, I had another dream that my younger son is actually God. So then after that, the younger son took the position of being God. So then all the disciples of her older son, she asked them to now become disciples of the younger son. So there's a lot of cheating that's going on, and Prabhupada would say that uh, very, very difficult in this day and age to get a bona fide guru. Even not even this day and age, Mahaprabhu says in Chaitanya Charitamrita that a soul that is traveling through all the planets in the universe, by a stroke of great luck, in some lifetime, gets the shelter of a guru. Koi Bhagwan, koi Bhagyavan Jeev. Guru Krishna Prasad Upai. So, by the mercy of Krishna, so Krishna Prasad is Guru, and Guru Prasad is Krishna. So Nityananda Prabhu as Balram is the Adi Guru. And when Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu met, then the associates were amazed at the connection between them. And of course, the connection is eternal. They are not different from one another. So Nityananda Prabhu is one of the in Chaitanya Leela, one of the constant associates of Mahaprabhu. He was there with Mahaprabhu in Navadvip, and he's the only person who stayed with him. Not the only person, one of the few people who stayed with him after his sannyas. Otherwise, Mahaprabhu, when he went to Puri, then he specifically instructed all his associates to stay back. So they would go once a year to meet him during the Rath Yatra time. But Nityananda Prabhu actually went with him and in Jagannath Puri. So with Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu had imbibed the mood of preaching, because that was Mahaprabhu's main mission. So what we are having now is actually the creation of Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu was the one who created Namhata. So Namhata, Hat means marketplace, and Nam means holy name. So he was the one who created this notion of a congregational preaching, because the more traditional form of worship in India is that everybody goes to the temple, and the temple is kind of the hub, the spiritual hub. But around that time, the Brahmins, they were not properly situated, and most of the Brahmins in that area, they were devotees of Kali, and very, very materialistic. And when Mahaprabhu wanted to spread the Sankirtan, so he said, okay, don't go to the temple. Every home will become a temple. And the marketplace of the holy name came into existence. So I remember attending a lecture by Bhakti Charu Maharaj, actually. He had come to the temple, ISKCON temple in Potomac. And and he was saying this Nama started by Nityananda Prabhu is very interesting. That if you go to any other marketplace, there are a lot of people selling their goods over there, and they have banners over there saying 20% sale only today, 50% sale only today. So in Nityananda Prabhu's marketplace, there is only one shop that is selling Krishna's name, and the banner over there says 10,000% sale, which means that when you go and buy something over there, they actually pay you money. So in other cases, even if it is an 80% sale, if something is for $100, you still have to pay $20. Or if it is 100% sale, you get it for free. But in the Namhata of Nityananda Prabhu, not only does he give you a commodity that is invaluable, but he also gives you so much along with it. Peace and happiness and spiritual emancipation. So when Mahaprabhu appeared, he appeared in Audharya Bhav. Krishna was Madhurya Bhav, that he attracted everybody by his beauty. Mahaprabhu, he was the personification of mercy. That even those who did not come to Mahaprabhu went after them, saying that, look, I have this precious commodity, you take it from me. And they would say, no, I'm too busy. No, please take it from me. And that Audharya is Nityananda Prabhu. So literally speaking, Nityananda Prabhu, he would go from house to house and knock at the doors of people. And when they opened the doors, he would say, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. And the person inside there would get startled. But just because of the force of personality of Nityananda Prabhu, they would say, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. And then Nityananda Prabhu said, come along with me. And by the time he would have a procession of people after him shouting, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. So that is the Audharya of Mahaprabhu. He does not wait for you to come to him. He goes into your house. He knocks at your door. And even if you're sleeping, Nityananda Prabhu will shake you and wake you up and say, Hari Bol, come out, please come and chant. So not everybody was favorable, of course, being the age of Kali. And one of the famous pastime, of course, that is that of Jagai Madai. That when Nityananda Prabhu was on his, and he would generally go with Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur had a very different mood from Nityananda Prabhu. So Nityananda Prabhu had an Avadut mood. So Avadut are people who are so immersed in the love of Krishna that they're mad in the love of Krishna. So Nityananda Prabhu would do strange things that he would go to different people's house and drink the milk from their cows. Just because he was unable to make this distinction that this is your cow, my cow. When you become in that mood, then it's, and actually speaking, everything does belong to Nityananda Prabhu, is Krishna. But even in this Prakrit Leela, he would forget. And he would go to other people's house, and then he would demand that his favorite dishes should be cooked. But people were so affectionate towards him, they would say, okay, sit down. And they would start cooking, and then he would get up and leave. So you're taking too long to cook. And he would get up and leave. So Nityananda Prabhu would live, he would spend time in the house of Srinivasa Acharya. And Malini Devi was the wife of Srinivasa Acharya, and she treated Nityananda Prabhu as her son. And there are many pastimes. There's the crow pastime there. The crow once stole one of the items of paraphernalia, took it and flew away. And Malini was Malini Devi was crying and crying that my husband will be very sad because this has been with his family for a long time. Nityananda Prabhu said, Ma, don't cry, don't cry. But she kept crying. And he said, okay, just wait. And then he said, Crow, you come and give back. And within a few seconds, the crow was back with the katori that he had stolen. And he left it, dropped it, and flew away. So Nityananda Prabhu would also go on the banks of the river Ganges, where young girls would be praying to Lord Shiva for a good husband, and he would say that you shouldn't worship Shiva, you should worship me, and I'll give you a good husband. And in fact, he said, I have a better idea, that you should just marry me. You can't get a better husband than me. And then all the girls, they would go and complain to their parents, and the parents would go to Nityananda Prabhu. But then everybody loved Nityananda Prabhu. So it was one of those pastimes like Krishna and Vrindavan. That, even though Nityananda Prabhu was a grown-up man, but he was an avadut, he was a child. And his simplicity, his immersion in spirituality, everybody's heart was saturated with love for Lord Nityananda. Once Lord Nityananda, he was traveling and he had set up a camp, and for whatever reasons, he was dressed very opulently. So he had somebody had given, or he had gotten or manifested, but he was wearing very, very opulent jewels. So there was a group of these dacoits who were actually Brahmins, but they had fallen down and had become dacoits. So they started following this Nityananda Prabhu's group, saying that at night we'll attack and we'll kill him and we'll take his jewels. So they camped outside Nityananda Prabhu's camp, and these dacoits, they were worshippers of Chandi. So before they went for a major expedition, they would worship Chandi. So before they wanted to go there, they worshipped Chandi, they drank wine, and because of the influence of the wine, they became so sleepy that they fell down and slept, and when they got up, it was already morning. So they said, okay, doesn't look like it's going to happen, but they were determined. So we'll do it next day. When they kept following, next day again, they worshipped Chandi and they went to the camp, and they saw that there were many big warriors with really opulent weapons, and they were guarding the camp, and they were all shouting, "Hari, Hari, Hari!" And the dacoits became scared, and then they started running away. And as they were running away, they fell into a ditch, and they lost their eyesight. They became blind. So they could understand then that they had offended some great personality. So then being Brahmins by training, they had some understanding of the position of Krishna. So then in their mind, they started begging the forgiveness of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. And Lord Nityananda Prabhu, of course, quickly forgave them, and they regained their eyesight, and they became great devotees of Nityananda Prabhu there. Similarly, Jagai Madai, the first time Nityananda Prabhu approached Jagai Madai, he was with Haridas Thakur actually, and they were on their excursion. They were going place to place, asking everybody to chant, and then they saw these stupid drunkards, and Nityananda Prabhu became very compassionate towards them, and they said, "These are Brahmins, and they are so sinful." So he told Haridas, "We should go and we should preach to them." And Haridas said, "I don't think it's a good idea. They're intoxicated and they're ruffians. There's no good that will come out of them." So no, they need Krishna's mercy most. We should go and preach to them. So then reluctantly they went, and Jagai Madai, they became very angry. So both of them, they picked up the sticks and they ran after Nityananda Prabhu. And Haridas Thakur and Nityananda Prabhu, they both ran. And of course, Haridas Thakur was much older, so he couldn't run that fast. Nityananda Prabhu ran away. And then Haridas Thakur went and complained to Mahaprabhu that I'm not going to go out with Nityananda Prabhu again. And then he gives a whole list of all the things that Nityananda Prabhu does. That he goes into the house of people and eats their food. And he goes to young girls and propositions them. Or he drinks the milk of cows and the people come in. And if they get upset, then he actually will go back later and he will untie the cow and let the cow wander away. And he said, now he has done this. And he ran away and I was almost caught and they would have beaten me badly. So only because of your mercy, I've been able to come. And Mahaprabhu was, of course, would listen. Mahaprabhu was very, very affectionate towards Nityananda Prabhu. In fact, once when Mahaprabhu's, when all the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the day of Vyasa Puja, the appearance day of Vyasadeva, they had arranged this whole festival for the Vyasa Puja of Mahaprabhu. And Nityananda Prabhu was happy and Mahaprabhu said, you do all the arrangement. So he did all the arrangement. It was a really opulent thing. And then finally, when it came time to accept Vyasa Puja, then Mahaprabhu pushed Nityananda Prabhu on the Vyasthan. And he personally did Aarti of Nityananda Prabhu. He said, you are the spiritual master. You are the original spiritual master. So he was very, very affectionate towards Nityananda Prabhu. So back to Jagai Madai. Then later on, once again, then Nityananda Prabhu, this time he was alone. He saw Jagai Madai early morning and they were already intoxicated. So then he approaches them again. And then Jagai says, aren't you the person that we chased away? He said, yeah, I've come back and I've come here to help you. So then Jagai takes an earthen pot, which was a wine pot actually, and he breaks it on the head of Nityananda Prabhu and it starts bleeding. So then some of the other devotees, they ran back to Mahaprabhu and they said, this is what has happened. And Mahaprabhu came out running. Because Krishna, he can tolerate. You can blaspheme Krishna. It's okay. He doesn't tolerate any blasphemy towards his devotees. So he came running out with the Sudarshan Chakra. So Nityananda Prabhu ran and fell to the feet of Mahaprabhu and said, no, in this avatar, your weapon is Sankirtan. So please let go of your anger. And Mahaprabhu, of course, he listens to Nityananda Prabhu. So Madai had tried to stop Jagai from hitting Nityananda Prabhu. So he immediately said to Madai, I give you pure devotional service. And then Jagai started, he started crying, saying that, please help me also. So Mahaprabhu said, I can't do anything for you. You have offended my devotees, so you can never get my favor. Then Jagai fell at the feet of Nityananda Prabhu. And Nityananda Prabhu, of course, quickly, not only did he forgive him, he actually pleaded on his behalf. And then Mahaprabhu said, yes, I award you also pure devotional service. So that's the mercy of the Guru, that not so much our qualification, but our sincerity is what attracts. That Prabhupada would make this point that you do your best, but I am there to champion for you. And he would make this point. He made this point many times. Now, of course, doesn't mean that the disciple slackens off, saying, my Guru is going to champion for me. So let me slacken off, because then the connection with the Guru gets broken. But if the devotee is sincere, if the disciple is sincere, then whether the disciple is at the 100% mark or at the 80% mark or at the 50% mark, doesn't matter. The Guru is there. The Guru is there to help you. So even somebody has fallen as Jagai. Jagai said there was no crime that Jagai had not committed, other than insulting Vaishnavas. It said there was no other crime there, that eaten They'd eaten uh, the flesh of cows, that killed people. They were constantly intoxicated. But then Nityananda Prabhu interceded on his behalf, and Mahaprabhu not only forgave him, but gave him true devotional service. So it is said that when Mahaprabhu gave both Jagai Madhai pure devotional service, he took all their sins onto himself. And they had so much of sins that Mahaprabhu was golden complexioned, he became black to the extent that he actually disappeared. And everybody became alarmed. What's happened to Mahaprabhu? What's happened to Mahaprabhu? And then Nityananda Prabhu said that let's all do kirtan. So they did Sankirtan at that time. And as they chanted the holy name, then that blackness of the sin disappeared. That's what happens with us also. We have a lot of sins. Hopefully not as much as Jagamadai, but we still have a lot of sins from previous lifetimes. And as we chant, all that sins, they disappear. Sometimes we say that when we are chanting, we get bad thoughts, or when we are chanting, our mind is more agitated. And that's because of this reason, that when we are chanting, then the chanting is excavating all the ancient sins, the mountains of sins that we have been carrying on since so many lifetimes. Bhujan Prabhu gives this example. Sachinand Swami also gives the example that if you're in a room that is dirty, and if it is full of dirt, and then you start cleaning the room, what will happen? Everywhere in the room there'll be dirt. Maybe before that, even though the room is dirty, but it appears clean. The air is clean because all the dirt is settled in layers and layers and layers on the walls and the floor. It is settled. But once you start cleaning the room, everywhere there is dirt. So what do you do then? You continue cleaning. More dirt, continue cleaning, and then ultimately the room is clear. That's what when we are chanting, then all these ancient desires that we have are the different bijas that have been sown because of our past sinful activities, they start coming up. But the fact that they're coming up means that they are being extinguished, they're being expunged. So that's why the instruction that is given to us is don't get alarmed by it, keep chanting. Let that happen, let the process work. Let those thoughts come, they will go away. More thoughts will come, they will go away. Once when in a temple there was chanting that was happening, and a disciple, he came to Prabhupada and he says that when I look at you, I have this strong desire to take this, I think he said the conch, take this conch and hit you on the head with it. And Prabhupada said, that is okay, keep chanting. Of course, he didn't say it's okay, you hit me on the head, but he said these thoughts are okay because all those thoughts of anger and envy and lust, they have been packed in us for so many lifetimes. And the fact that they're coming up means that the process is working. So Nityananda Prabhu, his main interaction, his main preaching that he did on behalf of Mahaprabhu was holy name. Chant the holy name. Chant the holy name. This is a well, it's a story, of course, given by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the context of Nityananda Prabhu's preaching of holy name. So he gives this analogy of a child calling out for the mother. So the child is hungry and is crying for the mother, and the mother comes running, and the child is crying, and the mother gives a piece of sweet to the child. And child is happy now. So the next day, the child wants the piece of sweet again, and then is crying and crying and crying, but the mother is not coming. And then after a long time, the mother comes and gives the piece of sweet. And then the child says, what's going on? Yesterday when I was crying, you immediately came and gave me a piece of sweet. Now I had to cry for such a long time. And then you came and gave me this piece of sweet. So the mother said there is a difference between yesterday and today. Yesterday you were crying for me. Today you're crying for the piece of sweet. So when you cry for me, I will be there right away. So uh, uh, the instructions of Nityananda Prabhu is that when we chant, we cry for Krishna. Now Krishna will come and give us whatever we desire, whatever sweets that he wants. And Krishna has a big basket of sweets. Whatever he wants to give, he'll give. But when we start crying for the sweets, then Krishna will take his own. He will still come. It's his name. He's still attached to it. He will still come. But just like the affection of the mother, it becomes covered when she realizes that the child is not crying for her, but crying for the sweet. So similarly, Krishna's affection, it becomes covered. So that's the difference between Shuddha Naam and Mishra Naam. They're both names. So like when I'm chanting, I'm also chanting Hare Krishna. And then when somebody like Guru Maharaj or Prabhupada is chanting, they're also chanting Hare Krishna. They're both holy names. But when they're chanting, all their chanting is for service. When I'm chanting, I may be chanting for so many other things there. So Nityananda Prabhu's instruction was chant only for the service of the Lord, and that will make your life sublime. So the later Leela, so when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu disappeared, then after that, on the instructions of Mahaprabhu, because Mahaprabhu wanted a lineage to be established. So on the instructions of Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, he married Jahanvi Mata. And then later on, he married her younger sister, Vasudha. And by Vasudha, he had a son, Veerbhadra. And there is a lineage that comes down from Nityananda Prabhu there. So just like there is no clear understanding of the disappearance of Mahaprabhu. So there's no clear understanding of the disappearance of Nityananda Prabhu also. So according to some, he went into the deity of Murlidhar, the deity that was given to his father. And according to some, he went back. He just went back to the spiritual world. So many of us are fortunate to have the deity of Nitai in our house. And even if we don't have the deity, when we chant, we have Nityananda Prabhu in our house. So Prabhupada would say that festivals are the mother of devotion. So his mercy is there all along, but on special days, his mercy is even more prominently present. So Thursday is Nityananda Triyadashi. We can use that day to maybe chant a few extra rounds, pray to Nityananda Prabhu for his mercy, meditate on his pastime, do Nityananda Katha, but ultimately beg him to increase our devotion, our service to spiritual master, our attraction to the holy name. So Mahaprabhu is most magnanimous, but Nityananda Prabhu is more than most magnanimous. Mahaprabhu was ready to kill Jagai Madai, but Nityananda Prabhu, he was there to redeem them. So he's even more merciful than Mahaprabhu. So sometimes we think that there's no hope for us, but Nityananda Prabhu is the hope for us. He is there to take us. It is said that Nityananda Prabhu in this marketplace of holy name, he's giving out the holy name for free. And then the question is that how much can you take? The answer is as big as you have a bag. You go to a shop and the person says that everything is free. So how much can you take? If you have a small bag, you can fill that bag. If you have a big bag, you can take more. So that bag is our faith, our Shraddha. The more faith we have, the more we can receive from Nityananda Prabhu. And on his appearance day, we can even pray for that please instill faith in us. And that faith will allow us to partake of the holy name. So thank you very much for patiently listening to me, allowing me to speak on this wonderful topic. I'll stop over here and see if there's any discussion.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Very, very wonderful and nectarian class, Prabhuji. As you are giving the class, like it was constantly, because now deities are there. Like I was constantly thinking of them, and it is different. So I just wanted to thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Have you given the yeah, you did give darshan of your deities, right, to the Namat?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yeah, I remember now. Okay. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for your kind words.
Hare Krishna, bye Prabhuji. Thank you very much for this wonderful class. One clarification, Prabhuji. So Nityananda Prabhu, Balram or Lakshman, they are same. Balramji and Lakshmanji had this nature of getting angry sometimes, right? From some past times we saw that, it's very difficult to please them and they would get angry also. But Nityananda Mahaprabhu, as you said, is more than most magnanimous. Any comment on that, Prabhuji?
So Nityananda Prabhu also had a reputation of getting angry. He would mostly get angry with there are a few pastimes, and he would mostly get angry with his associates, with his devotees. Who was the devotee who would make the arrangement for the travel from Navadvip to Jagannath Puri?
And he was kicked, yeah.
Yeah, he once got angry at him and kicked him, and then he was very happy that Nityananda Prabhu's lotus feet has touched me.
Right.
Prabhuji, was it Shivananda Sen?
I think you're right, Akshay Prabhu. It was thank you. It was Shivananda Sen, and at that time traveling, because there were many different kingdoms, so it was like you had to get visa and then you had to travel into the kingdom and get clear customs. It was taking a long time, and Nityananda Prabhu got angry and he kicked Shivananda Sen in anger, and Shivananda Sen was very, very pleased with it. But yes, Rajneesh Prabhu, overall, I think the point you make is valid, that that particular mood of being very angry, Nityananda Prabhu did not manifest that. He was more famous for his childlike personality. He was like a child, and that's why everybody, even though, as I mentioned, he was more than 20 years older than Mahaprabhu, but Mahaprabhu treated him like a child, and the other devotees, he was so much immersed in devotion to Mahaprabhu and Krishna. I don't recollect a lot of other than this. I don't recollect pastimes of him being angry. He used to have these mock arguments with Advaita Acharya. That he would go to Advaita Acharya's house. He would ask him to invite them for prasadam. Mahaprabhu and Advaita Acharya was in Shantipur. He would ask them to. He said, "You should," because Advaita Acharya was a grahastha. He would say, "You should invite Mahaprabhu and me for prasadam." And Advaita Acharya was, of course, happy. He would invite them for prasadam. And his wife would cook very, very opulent prasadam. And Nityananda Prabhu would come in and start criticizing the prasadam, that this is really bad tasting food, and the quantity is very limited, and you're clearly a miser. And Advaita Acharya would criticize Nityananda Prabhu that it's not very clear from which lineage you are. Nityananda Prabhu is similar to Mahaprabhu. He took sannyas, but he did not take sannyas. So Nityananda Rai, so Rai is basically the name that is given to those. Like Mahaprabhu is Chaitanya Das Brahmachari. So he took sannyas, but did not take sannyas. So Nityananda Prabhu was same category. He took sannyas, but he never actually went through the sannyas. So Advaita Acharya would tease him, saying that your status is not known, whether you're a sannyasi or not. Most probably you're a pretender, and you're just coming here for food. So I remember I was myself a little confused, and I asked this question of Bhakti Charu Maharaj, that Advaita Acharya is Lord Vishnu, Mahavishnu, and Nityananda Prabhu is the origin of Advaita Acharya. He's Balram. So how do we understand, them insulting one another and fighting with each other? And then Bhakti Charu Maharaj very nicely explained, and he said that they're demonstrating that all the mellows are present there in the interactions. It's not just Aishwarya. It's not just that you're God and I'm there to serve you. That is there. But there is also laughter, there is teasing, there is fun. One time, Nityananda Prabhu, he threw the food on Advaita Acharya. So he was eating and he said, this food tastes really bad, and he threw the food on Advaita Acharya. And Advaita Acharya got very happy, saying that I have got the remnants of your food. So he took more food and started rubbing on his body and started dancing. And Nityananda Prabhu started dancing, and Mahaprabhu said that I'm surrounded by two madmen here. So that's the deeper mellow that we see. That it's not that as we advance in devotion, then everything becomes unidimensional. It's just seva, seva, seva. Seva is there, but it is there with all the other things that make us happy. It is there with love and affection and humor and teasing and anger and separation. So everything that is there in this material world, it comes from the spiritual world. So the reason is here because it's there. The difference is that there it is nourishing our love for Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, because you brought about prasadam, what is Nityananda Prabhu's favorite dish and his likings, Prabhuji, or not just with food, other things too?
I actually don't know. Maybe Indulekha knows, because I know on Nityananda Triyodashi there are some kind of food items that are cooked. Or does anybody else know what are his?
I don't recall either.
No. Okay. No,
I know Mahaprabhu's was sukta and those Bengali dishes. They call it shukto, and the bangan bhaja and those kind of things. But
Yeah.
I don't recall Nityananda's.
Mahaprabhu was surprisingly big on prasadam. So the way that people would get Mahaprabhu to their house was by offering prasadam, and his associates would actually go and they would check out and they would give the recipe that Mahaprabhu likes it like this and like this. So like Indulekha is saying, he likes shukta very much. He likes I forget the name, but it actually, even the recipe is given there. That is prepared from the inner core of the banana stem.
Oh, the gorang potato also, right? No?
No.
They call it gorang.
Goranga potato is an ISKCON thingy.
Okay. Golden potato.
At that time there were no potatoes in India. Potatoes came later on.
Seriously?
Yeah, potatoes.
500 years back?
Yeah, there were no potatoes at the time. They came later. As far as I know, they came later on. They were bought by the Portuguese, and I believe in the 17th century. They were. That's how we have the name batata, right? Akshay would know that. Batata is the Portuguese name for potatoes. But he ate that thing also. That something that by the core of the banana stem, some dish made from that, and that was one of Mahaprabhu's favorite. But not sure
It's
about
called Thor in Bengali. That's what I know.
Thur.
Thor. It has two names actually. One is Thor and some other name, I forget. But it's called Thor in
This was
Bengali.
called manja also, because manja is the stem. So manja, they say. And then the banana flower also was very favorite of Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, both.
Mucha.
Mucha, yeah.
Yeah.
So banana flower and banana stem, both.
Mm.
Even rice. They used to love rice, Mahaprabhu especially.
Yeah, Bengal side anyway, it's rice and rice only. I mean, wheat came probably in 60s only. Before that, it was all rice.
And that sukta means saak only, like green leafy vegetables, Prabhuji?
Yeah. I think Shukta, Pyali may know more, but I think Shukta is a generic name for leafy vegetable like saag. But
No, actually Shukta is multiple vegetables together. And one of the vegetables definitely has to be Karela in it. Cooked in in a white gravy, typically made of poppy seeds, the gravy. Poppy seeds and mustard combination.
okay.
Actually, Manjishta had once made it during a Nampat program.
I see.
Karela is Krishna's
Hare
name.
Krishna. Hare
Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for a beautiful class. Just had a question with what you discussed. As we see, most of the time, we don't see any change in ourselves, even after doing japa for such a long time. So is it due to our past karma being cleansed, or also due to our japa not being done in a good quality?
So, I think all your all the statements that you're making are correct in a relative way. So you're right. We don't see changes in ourselves. That does not mean that there are no changes. There are changes, we just don't see it because they happen slowly and they're happening within us. So difficult for us to take a step away from ourselves and see it. But we can see it, right? If you think back 1 year, 5 year, 10 year ago, you'll see the changes. You won't see it from today to tomorrow, but the changes are there. Maybe they're not happening as fast as we would like them to happen. And the other two statements you made are also correct. It's because of the quality of our chanting. And the better the quality of our chanting is, then the more expedient the changes would be. Influence of past sins is not that much. It is there. So the statement is correct, but it's probably the weakest in terms of the influence. Once we take to the process of chanting, then our past bad habits, they don't. So we know the philosophy, right? That sins are material, devotional service is spiritual. Material things cannot affect spiritual things because they're in different plane. From a practical perspective, sins don't affect our devotional advancement. What they do affect is us. That because of past bad habits, we may develop things like laziness or distraction or other things, not able to concentrate. That affects us, and it affects our
Our japa.
our japa. But japa is always working. Every time we chant, it's always working. Sometimes more, sometimes less. Radha Govind Maharaj makes this very wonderful point that just like when we take the medicine, whether we realize its potency or not, it still works. Now, when you get the medicine, the doctor also says, like, take it with an empty stomach or take it after food. So they give some instructions, like you're in pharma. So when you give your patient medicines, you also tell them that 2 hours after the meal or right with the meal. If they follow that, the medicine is more effective. If they don't, then it's less effective. So when we get the holy name, we also get this instructions that chant with attention, chant with desire to get more service. So the more we follow that, the more effective the holy name will be. But and the point Radhavan Maharaj makes is the fact that we are taking that medicine means that the disease is getting cured. So that we should be confident about. That the fact that we are partaking of that medicine means that the disease is being cured. Of course, we should always try to expedite it, because at the end of the day, we are not chanting the holy name to cure us. That becomes a selfish consideration. That holy name, come and cure me. I am diseased, take care of me. We are chanting the holy name to serve the holy name. So ultimately, as we become more and more cleansed, our consciousness will change. We'll stop thinking that why am I not getting cleansed, but we'll start thinking about how more can I serve the holy name. And then we have the assurance of Prabhupada, we have the assurance of our Guru Maharajas, and all the way from Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Krishna. So we know the process works. We have to just stay with it.
Sure, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the wonderful question, Madhuri.
Prabhu, I had a similar, I guess I had pretty much the same question, but I also wanted to express my appreciation. Your analogies and your class is very, very wonderful. And I think building on Rajamataji's question, how do we appreciate the mercy that we are receiving? When you said, right, about Guru, I love that sentence when you said Krishna Prasad is Guru's services and Guru Prasad is Krishna's mercy. So when in the stage that we are in, when we are in a mood of trying to approach a spiritual master, how do we how do we appreciate that what is happening to us and to our lives, and how do we value that opportunity and make most of that opportunity, I guess, is my question.
Thank you, Priyanka. That's a very nice question. So how do we appreciate what we have gotten is by primarily taking advantage of it. That's the that's the biggest token of appreciation that we can show. That we have received some instructions from Guru and Prabhupada and Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. The strongest way of us showing appreciation is by trying to execute on them. And that's a manifestation of gratitude, appreciation, reciprocation. Everything is there. Srila Prabhupada would stress on this again and again and again. Srila Prabhupada was once living in Vrindavan, and one of his disciples, very, very fond of Prabhupada, but a little strange. So, so he happened to read that verse in the Bhagavatam, and this comes in the first canto. I believe it's in the first chapter or maybe third chapter, where the sages in Naimisharanya say that that by by mercy we have obtained you as the captain of a ship that will take us across this ocean of material existence from to the spiritual world. I'm paraphrasing here, but this devotee really loved this verse, so he memorized the verse in English. And when Prabhupada would come out in the morning, he will shout this verse out. That by the mercy of the Lord, we have received you, Prabhupada, as the captain of our ship that is guiding us through this ocean of Nishayans. And then Prabhupada looked at him and said, do something useful. So the point that Prabhupada was making was that show your appreciation by following through, specifically by following through the instructions. And Prabhupada has been clear, Guru Maharaj, our spiritual masters have been clear. What is it that they want us to do? They want us to follow the regulative principles. They want us to chant sincerely, and they want us to preach on their behalf. Whatever little things that we can do within our own house, with friends and family, to strangers, whatever we can do. So, so to the best of the abilities, we do that. And that's the strongest manifestation of our appreciation.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for so many reassurances also in the lecture. We have something to look forward to, and we are very hopeful about things now. But
they are all reassurances to me, actually.
But wonderful class, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prem. Okay, so if there are no more questions, then we'll chant one round, meditate on Nityananda Prabhu and chant one round, and after that we'll do Narasimhadev prayer. Who's doing Narasimhadev prayer?
I am Divyansh.
Divyansh is doing, okay. So we'll chant with us, Divyansh, one round, and then we look forward to hearing you sing. Okay, so if we can all unmute ourselves and chant together. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Krishna
Hare Hare, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna,
Haribol, can you turn off Facebook, please?
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Ram Ram.